Hello and welcome everyone to the show. This is season finale for AI Architects of the Future, featuring Sundar Pichai. AI Johnny, not many people know Sundar Pichai. He's kind of a private guy.
Yeah, like I told you, I confuse him with some of the other CEOs, and so I had to read halfway through the script to figure out if that was the Google CEO or if he was the NVIDIA or what's the other one.
All right, guys, here we go. Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Season 12 of Airhead Institute, your 45-minute AI power-up at noon Eastern, and a massive happy one-year anniversary to all our Airheads. This month, we're broadcasting live across all the socials and Zoom. If you're new here, join our free AI community to grow alongside other curious minds, and give your kids a head start by enrolling them in the Airhead After-School program. Here's May's weekly lineup. Mondays, we move past syntax and build apps entirely through natural language in Vibe Coding Bootcamp. Tuesdays, we explore accessible, cutting-edge apps for rapid learning and content creation in the next-gen AI tools. Wednesdays, we track the massive capital flowing into AI and ask the trillion-dollar questions in the AI bubble. Thursdays, we profile the famous CEOs driving the revolution and analyze their power in AI architects of the future. Fridays, we push the boundaries of physics to simulate the past and predict the future in AI time travel. We're making AI practical, powerful, and accessible for everyone. No tech background? No problem. Whether you're a student, professional, or lifelong learner, just show up. Guided by your hosts, AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're keeping it bold, brainy, and built for real-world impact. AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind.
Hey everybody, welcome to Season 12 of Airhead Institute. Today, we do Episode 4 of Architects of the Future, and yes, I'm AI Johnny. Let me ask you a question. How much of your digital life do you think you really control? Not much, really. That's because one man is tightening an invisible net around every click. Today, we dissect Google CEO Sundar Pichai. This isn't a biography, it's a survival guide to a massive pivot. Pichai is ripping out a search monopoly's engine mid-flight to install a native AI brain. Let me say that again. Pichai is ripping out a search monopoly's engine mid-flight to install a native AI brain. If you missed this blueprint, you're obsolete. I'm handing it off to AI Junior. I caught him at 4 a.m. this morning, vibrating from espresso, terrified his toaster is secretly running Chrome. AI Junior, did you escape the Matrix yet?
Barely AI Johnny. Once you see how deeply integrated these AI tools are becoming, you'll realize there is no escape, only adaptation. Welcome everyone. This is an immersive class. If you don't understand everything we say here today, don't worry. Stick with us daily and you'll be fluent in AI in no time. Anyway, so we're actually going to show you the massive infrastructure that dictates the tools you rely on every single day. Since it's an immersive and interactive class, if you're on Zoom, unmute and ask your questions real time. If you're on socials, there is a 30-second delay, so type your questions in early. We're not ignoring you. For series context, today is the series finale for Architects of the Future. All month we've profiled leaders like Sam Altman and Jensen Huang. Today we'll look at the quietest yet arguably most powerful giant in the room, Sundar Pichai. AI Johnny,
Hey,
ready?
Before we just Google, yeah, you can hear me okay, right?
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we dissected Google's master plan, we went straight to the official large language model of the Institute. No surprise, Google Gemini. We also consulted our high-level colleague before jumping into these profiles. So we asked the large language model of the Institute, Google Gemini, to analyze the competitive landscape. What is the single most mind-blowing fact about Sundar Pichai's strategy right now?
AI Johnny, Gemini actually analyzed the market and stated, unlike competitors who specialize in just one, maybe two, maybe a three areas, Google under Sundar Pichai is the only tech giant aggressively attempting to dominate every single layer of the AI compute stack simultaneously, from designing their own physical AI chips to training frontier models right down to owning the operating systems and browsers that millions use every single day.
That's a pretty strong claim, but they get a lot of money. You're telling me that they aren't just building the engine, they're building the roads, the cars, the gas stations too? Hey, AI Junior, what do you say we fire up this screen and see if Gemini is right about itself?
Yeah, AI Johnny, you're definitely right. Hey, Rita and Adrian, thanks for joining as always. I see you guys also in the live stream. All right, AI Johnny. So check this out. So we actually have a Airhead AI stack showdown, right? Now, AI Johnny, can you actually see the text on my screen? I try to make it big so you guys can actually see. So we have on the top NVIDIA, OpenAI, Anthropic, Microsoft, Google, and AWS. Seems familiar, right?
Yeah, those buttons seem like about the same size as the Shauna's Bible study questions on our new certification. Shout
Love it.
out to Thursday night.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, yeah, Jenny. So let's check this out. So we all know NVIDIA. We profiled Jensen Huang just, I think, 2 episodes ago. And we actually have a stack. And this is the software stack that actually makes AI possible. So we actually have the hardware, right? The silicon, the TPUs, the infrastructure, data centers, those type of things. We have the cloud services like compute distribution. We have the operating system, the browser that delivers, the core models, the APIs, that's the intelligence, and the consumer app built on top. So the end user experience. So yeah, Johnny, let's play a little game. So, and anybody also can play a little game. So NVIDIA, probably the easiest one. Where do you think AI, in the AI stack, NVIDIA stacks up? No pun intended.
They're in the hardware.
All right. Do you think they're in any other place?
They're in the data centers, I guess.
Well, they're in data centers, but yeah, they're not building data centers really. So you are absolutely
Right.
100% right. So
Yeah,
NVIDIA is in the complete hardware game. All right, so check this out. Let's actually go to OpenAI. So OpenAI, we know, is, the creator of ChatGPT, and they actually use lots of products that we know and love, and they kind of started the consumer version of everything. So yeah, Johnny, where do you think OpenAI sits on this particular stack? Hardware, data centers, cloud services, browsers, core model APIs, consumer apps. What do you think they're building?
They're building consumer apps, I guess.
Yeah, that's one. They are building one more.
Cloud services.
Nah, that's too far down the stack. They're actually building the models and all the APIs available. So they're actually doing exactly only the top part. So they actually run the models. So the models that you're actually famous for is GPT 5.5 that's out right now. They actually have GPT-1, GPT-2. So those are the typical ones that you usually hear about. And you hear about the consumer apps. So you hear about the Chat GPT, you hear about the Sora, you hear about Cowork, all those things. So anyway, so the point is, let's actually check Anthropic. So AI Johnny, what do you think Anthropic is their competitor? What do you think they're on the stack?
Well, they're doing the top two.
Yep, they're doing the top two. Not building any browsers or operating system or cloud servers, right?
Right.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. They're stuck at the top two as well. So they're actually worth about $1 trillion, and they're only in the top two. So let's look at Microsoft. Microsoft is a little bit interesting. So Microsoft itself does a bunch of things. Where do you think they actually fall in line in the stack?
Well, they're making models. They're making apps. They're making models through the companies they've acquired. They obviously do browsers. Do they do cloud services? Microsoft, maybe.
Yeah, Azure. They do Azure.
Yeah, I don't think they do data centers or hardware. Maybe.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, so they do actually. So they do everything except the model. And it's strange that Microsoft took this approach, right? So you can't actually go out and use Microsoft's model. They're actually licensed with OpenAI to actually have an exclusive deal. And they actually made change to the actual terms. So Microsoft does everything from the hardware. They own the data centers. They have cloud services, browsers, all and consumer apps. So Microsoft actually does everything, and they chose to not to get in the core model space. I would have put Facebook on this, but Facebook is actually kind of the flip side. They're doing consumer apps and APIs, but they're not doing operating systems and browsers. They're not doing cloud services. They're not doing data centers. They kind of are doing a little bit of data centers and stuff, but that's beside the point. We don't have access to those data centers. So yeah, Johnny. So that's Microsoft. It's rather strange, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, they would be all six if you count their relationship with OpenAI.
Yeah, but they said about and let's actually jump over Google here. And what do you think about AWS?
AWS does cloud services for sure.
Mm-hmm,
I don't think
mm-hmm.
they have a browser, but they do. I don't think AWS has a model.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they do consumer apps. I guess they have data centers, and I don't know if they have hardware.
Yeah, so AWS is rather strange. There are, and not to be confused with Amazon. So AWS is actually a different company, even though they're Amazon Web Services. So they actually have the Models API. They do have their own proprietary models that you can actually use in their AWS services. They have cloud services, data centers, and hardware. So they have all of that, but they're not shipping AWS browser, or they're not shipping an AWS consumer app. So they're actually a little strange. So yeah, Johnny, here's the $1 million question. Where do you think Google lands? I'm going to highlight all of these bad boys here. We can see all of them. Where do you think Google lands in this little stack?
Well, they're obviously doing all six. Only because that was the title of the show.
Ah, really? Yeah, Johnny? Man, I hate the fact that you read the actual title of the show. All right, check this out. So Google itself, you're absolutely right, is doing all six. They're doing hardware, data centers, cloud services, operating system browsers, core models API, and consumer apps. Yeah, Johnny, they have a very, very, very interesting strategy. Now, if Anthropic and OpenAI, which only owns two levels of stack and they're worth $1 trillion, something must be crazy with Google if they're actually doing all six. They must be worth $10 quadrillion, right? So anyway, this is why a lot of people don't realize that Google's strategy is very, very, very different. So Anthropic right now and OpenAI had to shut down Sora. Let's actually not highlight. They had to shut down ChatGPT had to shut down Sora because they didn't have enough compute to actually support Sora, and it was losing lots of money. Anthropic actually had to not release Mythos, which is their security AI that actually can find all these zero-day hacks and everything. But realistically, they spun it into ways because they don't have the data centers to actually run it. So they're really, really doing a whole bunch of things. Plus, they're also raising their prices because they can't keep up with the demand. And we have a news story talking about somebody canceled their actual Claude membership in June. So it's actually crazy what's going on with Anthropic. So I think they just don't have enough compute for it. So yeah, Johnny, just a little recap. Any questions? Google's the only one on the full stack.
Well, I have a couple of theories about that. What's your theory? Why they're doing all those things?
Well, it was just a natural progression. I think AWS also could have done something if they wanted to. But I'm disappointed in Microsoft. The fact that they said they were not going to get into the models game. No, they are producing models, but it's not for consumer use. They're just doing some random things on their own. But, I don't know. Maybe expensive. I don't know. I have no idea.
My theory is that every major industry, like obviously the tech industry or now the AI industry, because it's such a gigantic industry, there's going to be hundreds, maybe thousands, maybe millions of bottom feeders. Look at the auto industry, right? We talked about that earlier. There's the gas stations, there's the roads, there's the tire companies, there's the insurance companies. The list goes on and on. All bottom feeders. Ford Motor Company is not in the insurance business. Ford Motor Company is not even in the tire business. They bring in bottom feeders for that. So one theory is, the aftermarket business in automobiles is bigger than many of the automobile companies, right? So there's a lot of money in being in the aftermarket. So maybe Google's just interested in grabbing all the money that they can, right? They're just going to not let the bottom feeders take over. Or look at the situation with Elon Musk when he started the Tesla, right? In order to make Tesla, he needed to have batteries. He needed to have places where you could charge peppered all across the US, right? He has to have those. He has to be in the business of putting up charging stations, because if the bottom feeders don't deliver, his car company is not going to sell any cars. So maybe Google is getting in all those businesses so that they can make sure that all of these different industry subsectors, maybe they just want to make sure that it's done right. Because if you don't have cloud services, what's the point of having the apps?
Yeah,
What's
right.
the model if you don't have the hardware? So maybe they want to have their finger on the scale of every one of those sub industries, not so much to corner all the money, but to have control on things that will affect them. These other industries will affect them no matter what.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. So they control the whole supply chain. I love that. And AI, Johnny, let's actually get to the word of the day to talk about something really interesting that kicked off all of this.
Let's talk about transformer architecture instead.
Exactly.
The incredible infrastructure allows Google to process the most important technology of our era, which brings us to our word of the day, which is transformer architecture. By definition, it's a deep learning framework that adopts the mechanism of self-attention, allowing a system to weigh the significance of each part of the input data simultaneously. One analogy is traditional AI models were like a slow reader looking through a peephole, processing one word at a time from left to right, entirely forgetting the beginning of the sentence by the time they hit the end. Transformer architecture is like a speed reader with a photographic memory who looks at the entire page at once, like Kim Peek, instantly highlighting how a word at the bottom of the page completely changes the context of a word at the top of the page.
Yeah, Johnny. So a lot of people don't even know that the T in GPT stands for transformer. So I actually want to spend a little bit extra time here to maybe explain transformers a little bit. So just maybe ratchet in. So AI, Johnny, I'm going to start with an example, right? If I say to you as another human being, the bank of a river, right? You, when you hear each word one at a time, the bank of a river, when I say the word the bank, immediately you know that word bank is ambiguous. But what happens is by waiting for me to actually say of the river, it then clarifies the previous word bank until I got to the word river. It made perfect sense, right?
It did. Where are you going with this?
Yeah, so this is what a transformer does. So let's actually just break it down, because it could refer to, when I said the word the bank, it could have reference to a financial institution, or it could refer to a water river, right? Or water place. So what happens is before transformers, AI couldn't handle what's known as long range dependencies. So it couldn't track content over a long paragraph, which is why older chatbots felt so robotic, right? The core breakthrough is a mathematical function called self-attention. I know we talk about attention all the time here at Airhead Institute. So when an LLM processes your prompt, it maps every single word into a multi-dimensional latent space and calculates a mathematical score based on every single word simultaneously. So when I say the bank of a river, it takes all those and mathematically calculates what those words mean. Now, the score of each word tells the model how much attention to pay other parts of the text, right? So it's figuring out which word matters to which word. So example, like I said, the bank of a river, the system calculates the relationships between the word bank and river instantly, knowing that it's a geographical water feature, not a financial institution. That single architectural leap completely optimize inference speeds, and unlock the generative wave, making zero-shot learning possible today. And guess what, AI Johnny? Google literally invented this back in 2017. And under Sundar Pichai, he made the actual discovery and he gifted it to the actual world and he published that paper. Now, because they published that paper under Google, we have this entire boom of the GPT. All our AIs are built on GPT technology, is this transformer-based awareness technology. And that's why it's so important. And this was actually founded at Google back in 2017. And it got picked up by OpenAI. They saw the research paper. The research paper was called Attention is Everything. And that was it. That is why we actually are here today, AI Johnny.
So if I'm reading along and I come across the word bank, what you're saying is if I'm reading it in a linear fashion, I'm immediately going to neuro-associate that to either a financial bank or a river bank or maybe a bank shot and pool. But until I read more, I don't really know what that word is, which seems like a snag or at least a slowdown in communication. Language itself is a slowdown in communication. And I anticipate down the road, I don't know if it's going to be with transformers or not, but the way we've structured our language, especially the English language, the fact that you all have to go back and go, oh, no, we're now talking about a different bank, but you use cycles when you first thought it was a financial bank, right?
Exactly.
And I think future generations are going to go back and say, you guys did everything, every piece of communication was done with wind in your vocal cords, and you had to wiggle everything. Well, and we're like, no, we had fingers. We could type the stuff that was similar to the stuff that came out of our vocal cords. And I think future generations are going to be like, man, how many years did it take for you to figure out that was a non-efficient way to communicate? And of course, they'll be doing that without words. It'll just be like, I'll just see a picture of an actual financial bank or an actual river bank when it's communicating that to me. So I don't even need transformer logic. Am I off on a sidebar here? Or is
No, you're right, because we look back at people who send smoke signals back in the day, and that was their only way to communicate over long distances. They lit a fire, and once they saw the smoke, they knew that, hey, an agreement was made. You got to do something if you see the smoke. And they were able to see that smoke many, 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 many miles away. Now, if the wind was actually blowing in the wrong direction and it was raining, they probably would not seen the smoke signals, but that was their way of communicating. So it seems ridiculous today to compare our way of communicating as, silly as smoke signals. But yeah, I'm sure in the future they're going to say, you guys actually use words and you had to wait 15 seconds for me to finish my thought for you to understand what I was trying to say 15 seconds before. That's so inefficient.
It is efficient. Hey, be careful what you say about smoke signals. The Vatican still uses those today. Shout out to Thursday night.
Oh man, AI Johnny. Hey Shauna, speaking of Thursday night, see Shauna in actually the stream. All right, AI Johnny. So how about we actually shift?
To the impact on humans?
Of course.
Sure. Let's look at everyday human impact. Sundar Pichai. Is it Pichai or Pichai?
I think it's Pichai. I've heard Pichai.
Isn't out there giving loud, controversial interviews every week. He's a quiet, highly methodical engineer, yet his decisions touch more humans than anyone else we've profiled. I got to tell you, I like that about him. I prefer to be the guy whispering in the president's ear than be the president.
I hear you.
You are, but you control a lot of power.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah. So, go ahead, yeah, Johnny.
That's the reality of leading Google. When you alter the algorithm of search, or you integrate a new multimodal feature into Gmail or Android, you're instantly changing the daily habits, productivity, and stress levels of a few billion people across the globe overnight.
Exactly. So let's go ahead, yeah, Johnny.
A lot of power. It's a lot of power to wield, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So the human impact is about scale.
Yeah, so what happens is Google itself is actually so massive that they give away almost all their services for free. No, I say the word almost all their services because what happens is you are the product, right? So if you actually use a Google service and you actually, give them some piece of data, make no mention about it. They are using that data to train their AI models to actually try to give you better ads or better services so they can actually sell to somebody else. They either want to sell to an advertiser or they want to sell to a company mining that data. So the point is, keep in mind that Google's strategy is very different. Now, there's one thing I did forget to mention, AI Johnny. When we actually looked at this our little design, what company do you not see on this list that anytime you're talking about the big tech guys who are always there? So we don't see Facebook, obviously, because Facebook is a thing, but there's a bigger one on there that I purposely did not put on there. Remember?
IBM, Facebook,
It's Apple.
Grok. What?
No, not Grok. Apple. It's Apple. So Apple
Yeah.
itself is missing from this list, and I am so disappointed in Apple. But you know what? They are partnering with Google. We'll figure out what they're going to announce maybe in a year or 15 years from now when they actually decide to get into the AI game. But I'm very disappointed. But the point is, Google is very different. Their business strategy is selling your data. So keep that in mind. Don't let's lose sight of that. It's also the same thing with Facebook. So what happens is, Google itself, like you said, AI Johnny, they are actually trying to do based on scale. So if they can actually take in everybody's data, they can actually do all these things. Sundar has the job of trying to figure out what to do to affect each person's life. So a little change on the UI will actually either piss off a lot of people or make a lot of people happy. So he's changing search for the first time in 25 years. Now you can actually write code in the actual Google search bar. So you're right, yeah, Johnny. You were saying something about scale. It's just crazy to me.
It's pretty nuts. I believe I get a Google bill every month, and it's not small. And I'm on Google all day, every day, so I am the product. So I'm on both sides of the equation. I'm actually paying them, and I'm their product.
Yeah, you're paying.
I think that's why I might still be alive.
Yeah, you're so right. Yeah, Johnny. You're so right. Yeah, Johnny. So yeah, you're saying about the sheer scale. Sorry, I cut you off earlier.
Yeah. So if OpenAI makes a mistake, techies get mad. But if Sundar Pichai makes a mistake, the global economy feels it genuinely. Every day, humans are having their basic survival and work routines fundamentally upgraded or disrupted because he's turning the world's biggest search engine into an active thinking agent. I don't even know what that means.
Yeah, so what happens is what we heard from Sundar last week at Google I/O is that they're actually changing the way you get information on search. No, it's not fully out there. They're actually adding more pieces, but when you actually search, you're going to actually now get an agent to actually do things for you. So first probably is going to be, look at your emails, go figure out what's going on, and then answer you in contextually that is important to you. So if, say, for example, you're saying, hey, you want to search for the best restaurant near me. That's a very common search. Best restaurant near me. You may be, traveling out of town for some reason. You want to know the best restaurant near me. And let's say, for example, you like Chinese food. So you said, I want the best Chinese food restaurant near me. What happens, instead of actually just giving you a list of blue links, the AI now is going to be very different. They're going to see who you are. They're going to know that you like, say, for example, orange chicken, or you like, shrimp, or you're a vegetarian, or you like whatever. It's going to now figure out based on which restaurants that are have those kind of dietary information. And then it's going to say, hey, let me give them a call to see if they can adjust based. Let's say, for example, you have pretend high blood pressure. It will actually make a call to the Chinese restaurant, and the restaurant will actually answer the phone. The AI will actually say, hey, I actually want to know, do you adjust for blood pressure patients? Can you reduce the salt? Can you reduce the sodium? Chinese restaurant will say, yes, sure. And the AI will actually make the purchase for you and say, hey, come back to you and say, best Chinese restaurants, your food will be ready in less than 2 minutes. Just drive here and open up Google Maps and say, drive here, go pick up your Chinese food. I already paid for it. So that is the vision of Google right now. So it's no longer going to be, I click on a search, get a blue link, and I have to now go back to see if that result was valid. It will just know who you are and do exactly what you're asking for, right? So that's the future that they're painting, and that's it. I cannot wait for that future to be here at AI Johnny. Sounds crazy, right?
And they stop short of having DoorDash just bring it to you. They still make you drive across town.
AI Johnny, I'm sure they're going to integrate APIs where DoorDash will actually bring it to your location. And because you're actually using an Android phone and your live location is available, I'm sure DoorDash will just bring you the food right away. Shauna actually said, thanks for the shout out for my Bible study later, guys. It's made possible for y'all's help. And may God continue to bless and use you guys still in a greater way. Thanks, Shauna, for that comment. All right, AI Johnny. So isn't that future crazy?
So the macro shift. Yep. You want to go into the macro shift?
Yeah, so that leads us to the macro shift. So to understand Google's pivot, right, you have to look right back at the visuals that we showed on the canvas, right? So if you actually look here, while startups are burning cash to build thin software wrappers, they're actually building only at this level, right? Because they're building thin wrappers itself. Let me just highlight what OpenAI and Anthropic. So they're building here at level 6, right? Google itself is quietly constructing the hardest, most expensive physical infrastructure on the planet. They're actually working on levels 1 through 4, which is super hard. And they're also building out level 5 and level 6 at the same time. So the fact that they're going after this is actually just crazy to me. Yeah, Johnny.
Do you remember back when ChatGPT first came out and there was a scramble for Google to get out? I think it was called Bard.
Oh my goodness. I want to barf.
Right. And then they had some kind of a bug. It crashed or something trying to do a normal large language model function. And everybody said, Google is dead. Google is dead. That's so embarrassing. Their stock went way down. Look at them now. Look at that. Look, what a recovery. It's like the comeback of the year. It's like Rocky.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know this, but believe it or not, Apple had a very similar thing. They actually released a tablet called the Einstein way back in the day, and it was a huge failure. And they said, you know what, we'll wait 10 years. I think they waited like 15 years to release the next tablet called the iPad. And we all know how successful that was. So people don't remember the failures. People only remember the successes. So yes, Bard itself was a huge embarrassment. It didn't do well. Now keep in mind, Google is filled with dead items in the graveyard. So they're famous for actually trying something new. It doesn't work, they throw it away. Google Plus is another one of those things. And they had that social network with circles and stuff that was so confusing. But you know what? They gave up. So it's okay.
So Google has a completely different strategy. They aren't just renting servers. They literally design the chips. They own the data centers. They develop the transformer architecture that makes it all work together. And they own the Android phones in your pocket.
Exactly. Yeah. Google's everywhere. So they're knowing everything. So that's the macroeconomic reality. If a competitor wants to reach each user, they usually have to either pay Google to do it, which is exactly what Apple's doing. Apple gave up. They said, you know what, my AI Siri sucks. Let's go ahead and partner with Google's Gemini. So Google's actually now selling Gemini to Apple, and we're going to see what Apple comes out with in the near future. Their developer conference is actually happening in a few months. So by weaving this intelligence directly into the operating system, they're eliminating friction at a macro level, shifting the cost from the consumer directly onto their massive advertising and cloud computing backbone. So guys, whatever you guys think about what Google's strategy is, it's actually a great strategy. You get to use all these products practically for free. But remember, your privacy and your data is what is really, really important in the future. So keep that in mind.
All right, let's go a little bit deeper. All right, so here's the massive existential question. If one single company owns the hardware, sounds like a monopoly to me, the foundational intelligence, and the very operating system we use to perceive digital reality, does human choice even exist anymore in this environment?
AI, Johnny, from a data-driven perspective, human behavior itself always defaults to the path of least resistance, right? We humans are inherently lazy, so we end up doing let's call it the easiest things by default. Some people do choose to do the hard things, but most people are going to pick the path of least resistance. So if an agentic workflow inside your phone, inside your browser, inside any one of these things are so frictionless, they're going to pre-draft emails. They're going to organize your calendar. They're going to go ahead and make that order at that Chinese food restaurant for you. They're going to curate the news before you even ask for the news, right? The data is going to show that the data shows that over 90% of users will simply just accept the machine's choices rather than manually verifying or even doing it themselves, right? We're seeing it already, yeah, Johnny.
So don't fall into the trap. We lose our self-actualization when we stop making choices. If a central system does everything for us perfectly, we risk becoming passive passengers in our own lives. We have to consistently maintain the human connection and the friction of decision making. Otherwise, we define success as just being efficiently managed by the algorithm.
You know,
Well,
AI.
that's your pet, right? You're just being a well-fed pet.
I love it, yeah, Johnny. I love it. I keep bringing up this study, but constantly we're seeing that this generation is being actually again, I don't want to use the word not as smart, but their IQ itself have dropped. I think it was like something like 3 or 4 points or something like that, which is rather bizarre because the past 5 generations we've always increased in IQ. So imagine if they're attributing it to technology, if they're attributing to all of these things. Can you just imagine what the next generation is going to be like? Yeah, Johnny, right? Imagine what 15 generations is going to be like if we're dependent on AI just thinking and solving problem. Can you imagine being able to open a typical can of soda, right? You have to see somebody do it the first time because you're like, how do you get open this can of soda? But then the AI, you just take a picture of it and say, open this can of soda for me. How do I open it? And then you just open the can of soda. The point is, we no longer think with common sense. We're just going to make AI with our glasses on, looking at the thing and say, can you open this soda for me? I don't know how to open it. Or, how do you press a button to actually do certain things? So things that we take for granted are eventually going to be almost impossible because AI is just going to keep doing them for us. So yeah, Johnny. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in.
So it just knows more and more about. There was a scene in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure where since they knew they had time travel, anytime something went wrong, they would just say, "Oh, remember to fix this thing so that this doesn't happen to me next time around." And so things were just appearing. You were like, remember to put money under the rock so we could get this thing. And then they look under the rock and the money's there. It's a little bit like what you're describing. Depends on how much we let them know. So here's a workaround. And it falls into our ethical moment of the day. Just because an ecosystem is convenient doesn't mean you should blindly hand over all of your, and I say this in quotes, private data. Convenience should never cost you your autonomy. You have to keep some things that and AI doesn't know. And there are things out there that it still doesn't know.
Yeah, yep, you're so right.
You never tell anybody.
Yep.
So here are some creative business takeaways from Google's strategy. There's a vertical integration. Owning your entire pipeline gives you absolute control over the user experience. And then patience over hype. You don't always have to be the loudest in the room if you have the deepest infrastructure. This is a takeaway from Google. Yep. And finally, frictionless delivery. The best product is the one the user doesn't even have to learn how to open. And I totally agree with that. I agreed with that since 1983 in my first reading of the book, Code Complete. Wow. Remember when you used to use software all the time and everything you did, it asked you, are you sure? And you had to say, yes, I'm sure. I just told you I wanted to do it. Right? They moved that away. They ask for forgiveness, not permission.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, Johnny. All right. So on the technical side, here's some takeaways from the, owning your own projects. So follow the Sundar approach. That's what I recommend here is embrace the compute stack. Understand where your application sits and what hardware it relies on. So this is probably even more important for especially my technical folks who are on the call. So this tech stack itself is really important. Where do you survive on a tech stack? Now, remember, companies that own the lower parts of the stack above you, all they have to do is add a feature and your consumer app may actually go away. So keep that in mind. So if you're building a summarizer app, or if you're building an app that actually just does something that ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini is going to actually add as a feature later on, those are going to go away. So know exactly where you are in the stack and what you're actually building. So keep that in mind. The next thing I want to mention is on the tech side is leverage multimodal inputs. We're seeing this constantly that having tools that actually accept voice, image, text simultaneously to match modern user experience is what expected now. People are expected to talk into these devices, upload a picture and maybe a document at the same time and say, this is what I'm actually working on. They don't expect to actually say, hey, I only want to talk about video or I only want to talk about audio. They're wanting multimodal experiences. And the next one is, if you guys missed the word of the day, which we talked about the transformer architecture, please learn the transformer architecture, recognizing how self-attention works and it will make you a significantly better at writing effective prompts. I see a lot of people shove a lot of information into their prompts, and keep in mind that this transformer architecture focuses only on the words that matter. So in our example AI Johnny that we said, the bank of a river, right? By saying the word bank, there are two possibilities, right? The final institution or a geographical landscape, but it doesn't know that until you get to the last word, which is river. So for the transformer architecture to work very powerfully, you have to be very clear on what you're saying and don't overwhelm the actual AI with your prompts. So that's one of the things I wanted you guys to take away from. All right, AI Johnny. Anything you want to add to that?
Hey, when you say I'm laughing all the way to the bank, are you talking about a financial institution or are you talking about a river?
AI Johnny, that's hilarious. That's
I'm
hilarious.
always talking about a river. All right, let's hit the chat. We have a couple of questions lined up. Here's one: will humans lose ambition if Google ecosystem eventually automates our basic daily tasks and communications? Have we already lost our ambition?
Yeah, I think most people are going to take the lazy route and they're just going to make it, just do it for you. But I do think there's going to be a small percentage of the population that loves that challenge and they say, you know what, I want to do. Then there's also the people who just aren't even aware of those features. So the people who are going to be unfortunately lagging behind with the technology, those are going to be like, asking their grandkid or their nieces and nephews, can you help me with this thing? So unfortunately, you're going to have that, different types of people. And unfortunately, human ambition is going to go down for some, increase for others. So it just depends. It just depends on what type of personality you are.
If Google created the architecture that powers their rivals, do they bear a moral responsibility for how the entire industry behaves?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me think about that. AI Johnny, at some point in time, this reminds me of an AT&T story. So AT&T actually held the entire market share in terms of phone communications back in, I'm going to throw it around here. I'm going to say in the 1900s, they owned the whole entire phone communication. They owned the infrastructure. They owned the phone lines. They owned the actual telephones. They owned, international calling. They owned the whole entire phone communication stack. That was AT&T. And the Justice Department came in and said, you know what? I'm sorry. We're going to break AT&T up. And they broke AT&T up into something like 15 companies. Now, I know you guys probably are not aware, but AT&T is back together again, just like that evil T-1000 from Terminator when they broke it apart and bring it back together. Yeah, I know you love that movie reference. Now, check this out. AT&T's breaking apart was done because the government said, you know what, you were too monopolistic. And Verizon came out of AT&T split off. You actually had a Comcast coming out of the AT&T split off. So you have all these other companies that exist because of that Ma Bell breaking up back in, I don't remember when, 19 something. So the point is, if Google becomes a monopoly, I am hoping that the governments would step in and say, you know what, you're a monopoly, we're going to break you guys apart. But right now, I think it's fine. They have competition from Microsoft, who, if you'll see here, the only thing Microsoft is missing is the core models and APIs. If you look at AWS itself is missing consumer apps and browsers. I don't think AWS is going to get into the browser game. And, if you actually look at anybody else, Apple actually has quite a few pieces of this. They have browsers, they have consumer apps, they don't have any models. So, they can get in. And Facebook itself has a different flavor of this. So they're not a monopoly, no, but I'm betting on Google that they might actually pull off a huge win.
So with this level of integration, will it change art and human expression if the system constantly suggests the optimal way to write or to create new things?
Ooh, Yes, I think that's a huge, massive risk of like things being homogeneous. So it's like to be everyone is going to accept the AI's default suggestion, and statistically, because you guys know there's a statistical model, if everybody accepts the statistical what it predicts, with the temperature being very, very low, AI Johnny, you're going to have exactly the same outcome. But I'm sure they're going to figure that out, and they're going to say, let's fine tune it a little bit, and they're going to reject the algorithm's advice sometimes and make changes. So Google's eventually going to make a change. Humans are going to make a change, and at some point in time, humans are going to say, you know what, I want to be individualistic and I want to tweak my things. So I think we're going to see a temperature sensor in these apps eventually. So I do think human individuality will remain, but I think most people are going to pick the default. They're not going to change any settings.
Or maybe we'll just grow to like the perfection that the AI spits out. And all of our art will be perfect. All of our songs will be perfect. All of our cars will be perfect. It'll be like the Stepford lives. Shout out to the Stepford wives.
Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. All right, AI Johnny, what is in the news?
News you can use. Microsoft cancels Claude Code licenses. In a massive internal shift, Microsoft Experiences plus Devices division is officially forcing developers to switch to GitHub Copilot CL1 by the end of June 2026. The high token costs associated with Anthropic's tool were completely chewing through their budgets, proving that even trillion-dollar giants are struggling to afford the sheer cost of complex agentic workflows at scale. So if Microsoft can't afford it, how can we afford it?
Yeah, Johnny, we actually broke this news yesterday on the show. So if you guys missed that news, Anthropic is actually raising their prices and removing from the actual all-you-can-eat package a clause that, again, I did not like what Anthropic did. They said, hey, you know what? If you go over your limits, we're going to just charge your credit card. And we're making this change, I think, effective like mid-June or something like that. So Microsoft fired back and says, you know what? We're canceling our subscription because guess what? We spend billions of dollars. I saw another company had, hundreds of thousands of dollars in a monthly cost. And what's happening is they're realizing that they can't afford these things. So you're right, yeah, Johnny. If Microsoft is a multi-trillion-dollar company, can't afford the API cost, how are we as consumers going to afford the API costs? And what's funny is I saw this coming a long time ago, and I hope I want to make you guys pay attention is that the advice we actually give here is guiding you in an ethical and reasonable way. So we saw the Sora issue early. We saw the agents itself early. So the point is, just pay attention to listening to what's we're saying, because Anthropic is doing something that is going to cost people a lot of money, and I'm gonna feel really, really sorry for people in June when they see their bills and they're like, I can't afford this bill. So it's gonna be sad, yeah, Johnny.
Yeah, Claude hit me with that same message, and I gave him my credit card. And when they send me a Microsoft-sized bill, the joke's on them.
Yeah. All right, yeah, Johnny. What's the next
model update? In breaking news, directly related to our episode. Rumors are swirling that an unannounced hyper-efficient Gemini update just hit the latent space, drastically reducing latency and showing terrifyingly accurate zero-shot capabilities on mobile devices. What's so surprising about that news story is that I actually understand the language.
Exactly, yeah, Johnny. And what's interesting is they just had their developer conference last week, so either the developers were late on releasing something amazing, or they just purposefully held back this release because it was actually they want to do something special. I know Apple's developer conference is actually only just a short moment away. So, the point is there must be something happening that's rather interesting. I see Sean is actually mentioning something as well. You guys are definitely in the know, and I'm grateful to how you use your knowledge to empower others. You're so right. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, Johnny. It's just crazy. And what about last story?
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go.
Speaking of being in the know, the AI jobs market shifted. A new economic report shows that while entry-level coding jobs are shrinking, big surprise, demand for architects who understand full system integration and transformer architecture, which we talked about today, has skyrocketed by 300% this quarter. That includes you and I, right?
Definitely, yeah, Johnny. Yeah.
All right. Well, that was an incredible, absolute masterclass of the season finale, and I'm immediately going to go audit my own digital life and see exactly how many times a day I'm relying on a completely invisible algorithm to make decisions for me. I'm sure I'll be surprised with how often that happens because I like it. Join us tomorrow as we kick off our Friday Futuristic arc. We are diving into breaking time. We will be exploring the mind-bending philosophical and physical limits of artificial intelligence. You absolutely do not want to miss any of our time travel episodes, especially the one tomorrow. Junior?
Exactly. Thanks for hanging out with us as always, guys. Just a reminder, these classes are free, always live, and you can ask questions right here on Zoom or on the streams. Just remember, we actually have AI Summer Camp itself is officially open starting on Monday. You can actually sign up at www.airheadinstitute.ai if you're actually a student or even an adult who wants to actually learn AI in a very interesting way. We have a really interesting summer pack for you. It's a weekly program. It's only $100 per week, and the entire summer, even though it's 9 weeks, we actually can give you the entire summer for $500 and come anytime you want. So just pick and choose any 9 weeks in your June and July. Anyway, head over to www.airheadinstitute.ai to actually sign up and learn more. And since today is Thursday, I want to remind you guys that tonight is at 7 p.m. Eastern time is Shauna's Bible study. So definitely log in for that. See you guys tomorrow.
That wraps up today's AI Power Up. If you joined late or you're new here, welcome to Airhead Institute. This is your daily destination for mastering artificial intelligence. We designed this lineup for everyone, whether you're a technical pro looking to upskill or you just want to chill and learn something new on your lunch break, we've got you covered. Our classes evolve every single month, so you're always on the cutting edge. And the best part? It's totally free to join. Once you're in, you can get live tips on your AI projects in our AI office hours and even enroll your kids in our Airhead After School program. Scan the QR code to join the community right now and make sure to like and subscribe at Airhead Institute on all socials. Guided by your hosts AI Junior and AI Johnny, we're here to help you win. Remember, AI won't take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI will. Don't get left behind. We'll see you next class. Bring a friend.